Hey y'all, thank you for joining me for another What's for Dinner. So to start off the week, I wanted to make something super simple. So I'm doing some air fryer Parmesan crusted chicken. I actually came across this on TikTok and I just wanted to give it a try. I have done stuff like this really similar in the past, but this one is actually a keto version. No, I'm not on a keto diet, but I just still thought that it looked and sounded really good, and I figured that it could help at least one person out there that is following this type of diet. So the first thing I did was I took 2 boneless chicken breasts and I just sliced those in half to make 4 thinner pieces to feed my family of 4, and I just much prefer a thinner breast. I think it tastes better. Then I beat 2 eggs, and the original recipe didn't call for any seasoning, but I did decide to throw in some lemon pepper seasoning to that egg mixture just to give it a little extra something something. And I know that someone's going to say something about not seasoning the chicken, and normally I would completely agree, but you do have to remember that Parmesan cheese, especially the type that's in this bottle, is really powerful. Like, it has a really strong taste to it, so just keep that in mind. But I do think next time I would at least season the chicken with some garlic powder. But anywho, as you can see, I'm just dipping my chicken in the egg wash, and then I'm rolling it around in the Parmesan cheese, making sure to really press it in and to get every little crevice coated. Then I'm going to place them 2 at a time in my air fryer basket. I didn't use any type of oil. I didn't flip it. I just left it alone, and I cooked it at 400 degrees for 20 minutes. And look at how golden brown and delicious they turned out. I didn't have any problems with sticking, and I was just impressed. You can do so many things with this, like salads, wraps, pastas, sandwiches, the list goes on. But I also wanted to give this new Bob Evans side dish a try. It's the cheddar ranch macaroni and cheese, so stick around for our review on that. But back to the chicken, we all really liked it. It had such a great flavor. My only complaint was it was a little bit overcooked. I would cut it down to probably 15 minutes next time, because it was a little bit on the dry side. But I just served it with some roasted broccoli. And as for this mac and cheese, we hated it, unfortunately. As you can see, it's a big ball of mush. It was really gummy, and it had a really off taste to it. We are a big fan of all the Bob Evans sides, but this one was not it. Here I'm trying out a new recipe called $1,000,000 pork chops, and this is the recipe that I'm the most excited about sharing out of this whole video because these are incredible. So to make these, I first started with the topping. So all that is a half a block of room temperature cream cheese. I'm going to be adding some mayo to this, and I didn't measure out these ingredients because I'm using less pork chops than what the original recipe called for, so I just followed my heart here and it worked out. But I'm just adding in some shredded sharp cheddar cheese. The recipe did call for green onions, but we don't like that, and I always replace it with some freeze-dried chives. I love the flavor of those and also the pop of color that they give. I also fried up some bacon and crumbled it up, and I added half of that into this mixture and just stirred everything together, and now I can set that to the side and get started on the pork chops. So now I have just heated up a couple tablespoons of olive oil, and once my skillet was nice and hot, I went ahead and laid in the pork chops. And I did season both sides with some salt, pepper, and garlic powder. It is important to use some thick cut chops for this recipe just to ensure that they will stay nice and juicy. So all I'm doing here is just searing both sides. I cook those for 1 minute per side, just trying to develop a little bit of a crust. I'm not trying to fully cook these through just yet. But now I can go ahead and add on that cheese mixture. I'm just trying to evenly distribute it. It is important to use a oven-safe skillet for this because we will be transferring it to the oven. But if you don't have one, you could always just transfer it to a baking sheet or even a casserole dish. Either will work. But I just took the back of my spoon and spread out that mixture, and then I'm topping it with some more cheese just so that it can have a nice final presentation, and also the more cheese the better. But I just popped that in my oven at 400 degrees for 15 minutes, and then here's after I pulled it out. I'm just topping it with that reserved bacon and then some more freeze-dried chives, and that was it. Super simple. So I just served this with some homemade mashed potatoes and some fresh steamed green beans that I had tossed in some butter and some garlic salt. But y'all, I cannot even express how amazing these pork chops were. Like, honestly, these were probably the best pork chops that I have made yet, and I have tried several different recipes. I have always liked pork chops, but they have never been like my favorite. But this recipe right here, I can see myself making it often. So if you're not the biggest fan of pork chops, I highly recommend this one. It was our favorite meal of the week. Up next, I am making some buffalo chicken stuffed peppers. I have shared this recipe once before. I love it and I have been craving it. So in this bowl, I have shredded up a rotisserie chicken and I'm adding in a block of cream cheese, again at room temperature. That just makes it a whole lot easier to mix. And then you'll need a tablespoon of some ranch seasoning. I just finished off that bottle. And then you'll need some buffalo sauce. I love the Frank's Red Hot. You need at least a third of a cup. That looks about right to me. And then I'm adding in some shredded cheese. I just use a like Mexican blend here, but whenever I make this, I just use whatever cheese I have on hand. Doesn't really matter. I do think pepper jack would be amazing with this. But once I mix that together, I went ahead and took 2 green bell peppers and just sliced those in half. And I took all of the middle out and got all the seeds out and everything. And then I'm just going to simply stuff those. And then I'm going to add 1 tablespoon of water into the casserole dish. This will help steam and cook the peppers. Then I'm covering it with tin foil and popping it in at 350 degrees. I like to cook mine for about 35 minutes. Then I take the foil off, add more shredded cheese, and I'm just going to pop these under my broiler to get that cheese nice and melted for about 2 minutes, and it should look something like this. These are so darn good. I also think these will be really good for meal prep if you are into that. So here is my plate. I just topped it with some ranch, some more chives, and some pepper. Pretty good combo here if you ask me. And I just served this with a side of yellow rice and it was the perfect combination. Spinach and ricotta stuffed shells is a family favorite. I have shared this recipe a few times throughout the years on my channel. It is the perfect option when you want a meatless night. So I start off with the cheese mixture. So I am going to throw in some ricotta cheese to my mixing bowl. I'm using the skim milk version this time. And you do need 12 ounces, so that's why I took off some of the top. I can never find just the 12-ounce containers. But I'm going to add in about a cup of mozzarella cheese. I did shred this up myself. I do prefer to do that when I have the extra time, but I also still loved bag cheeses as well. Here I'm adding in about a half a cup of some shredded Parmesan cheese, and then I'm just going to crack in 1 egg. Obviously, be really careful not to get shells in there. And now I'm just going to add in my seasonings. So I'm just throwing in some Italian seasoning, some sea salt, and some black pepper. So I'm just going to mix all of that together until it looks something like this. And now I'm going to get started on the spinach. So I like to go in with scissors. I find that to be the easiest way to chop it up. I've had this container in my fridge for a bit and it needed to be used up. So this was the first recipe that popped in my mind. But I am going to heat up some olive oil and then I'm going to throw in some minced garlic and just saute that for about a minute until it is nice and fragrant. And then I'm going to go ahead and throw in that chopped spinach. When it is chopped up like this, it mixes in much better and it's more likely that my family will eat it when it's in small pieces. But now that it is wilted down, it only took like 2 minutes. You want to make sure to let it cool down first because you do not want to like cook the egg in that ricotta mixture. But that is it for the cheese filling. So I'm just going to set that to the side. And then you want to pull out your favorite spaghetti sauce. We really like the Prego one. And you're just going to pour some into the bottom of an 8x8 baking dish. I used quite a bit, not really sure why, but you definitely don't need that much. I did boil a half a box of the jumbo shells. And then now I can stuff the ricotta spinach mixture inside of that. And I'm just going to repeat that until all of that cheese mixture is gone. You could also pop it in if you didn't want to spoon it in. But now I'm just going to take a little bit more spaghetti sauce and just drizzle some over the top. Use as little or as much as you want. And then I'm going to cover it with tin foil. Pop it in the oven at 375 for 25 minutes. Pull the tin foil off and let it go for about 10 more minutes. And here is when it was done. I just topped it with some more Parmesan cheese and I let that melt. And then here is my plate. I have 3 of the shells. Love this recipe, wouldn't change a thing about it, and it's pretty kid friendly and a good way to get some spinach into their diet. And I just served it with a side of asparagus. To end the week, Josh grilled out for us, which is a huge deal because this man does not cook, but he is trying, so be nice, y'all. So, of course, I had to document this, and let's just go ahead and cue some music to make it extra dramatic. Such a simple dinner, but honestly, those are my favorite. This came out so good, and it was really nice to be cooked for. But that is going to wrap up this video. I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you haven't already and you love food content, be sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on future uploads. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next one.